And here for the
Yeah.
I'll take one back. I put a few back by the door for anybody. But look for where the song, this is our opening prayer. When the song of the angels is still, it is the perfect benediction for Christmas Eve. Amen. What do you think? I love the tune, but you have to, to hear it, you have to see these words.
Yeah.
So powerful. The work of Christmas begins. Welcome everybody. Sorry, there's so many pages to this. And actually, we're only just dipping our toe in the water today. But I wanted to give you insight into a variety of these poets so that you can go look up some of the things for yourself. But let me begin sort of chronologically. James Weldon Johnson, he was born in Jacksonville, Florida. His parents were from the North, and neither had been in slavery. And so he was from a very secure, stable family. His mother was a teacher. His father was a head waiter at a resort. But high school did not go for Black students in Jacksonville, so he had to go to Atlanta. And he went to Atlanta University, where he went to high school and college, earned his BA in 1894. And during the summers, he would work with young people out in the country and realize the terrible plight of so many African Americans in rural South in America. He became principal of a high school. In Jacksonville, expanded the school to become a high school for Black students. And he started a newspaper that didn't last very long, but it was the first a voice against racial injustice, and it served to encourage Black people to achieve. Now, he was kind of a conservative in his viewpoint about social justice issues. He thought about individual achievement in spite of the racial prejudice and problems that, in the society and the prejudice. He felt like you could still achieve. His work brought the attention of Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. And he, in a sense, sided with Booker T. Washington, who had a more conservative view of things. He became the first Black lawyer since Reconstruction in Jackson, in Florida. Think about that, the accomplishments of this man. He and his brother Rosamond began to write songs. And guess what he wrote the lyrics to? Lift Every Voice and Sing, which became the Black national anthem. And his brother Rosamond did the music. They moved to New York. And it's very interesting. They began to write songs for Broadway, like 200 songs. And so in other musical productions, not just Broadway. Anyway, he began to do more literary work. And he worked at Columbia University studying literature for 3 years. And he became a civil rights advocate. And Booker T. Washington brought him to the attention of Roosevelt, and he was named a consul, American consul in Venezuela. Isn't that interesting? I mean, think about the accomplishments of this guy. And so then he comes back to New York. He's urged to become involved with NAACP. He is a field secretary, and then in 1920 he becomes the executive secretary of the NAACP. This guy did it all. He had demonstrations in New York City when lynchings were becoming more common again. And he also protested the way American soldiers were treating Blacks in Haiti. He saw it firsthand. He broke with the Republican Party in 1920. He opposed Marcus Garvey's effort, to back to Africa movement. He did not think that was the right way to go. Anyway, so he continued to produce, to write, to work with the NAACP. And he wrote, does this sound familiar? He studied spirituals, and he wrote the words to God's Trombones. You ever heard of him? That's probably his most famous work, literary work. Then, of course, that's been set to music and all. So he remarkable life. So let's look at James Weldon Johnson. Now, this is a sonnet to the Shakespearean sonnet. There are two forms to sonnet. There are the Italian sonnets, which is 8 and 6, an octet and a sextet. And the Shakespearean sonnet is 4-4-4-2. 4-4-4-2. Okay, so this is in the style of the Shakespearean sonnet. I know you always want to know that, didn't you? My heart be brave, and do not falter so, nor utter more that deep despairing wail. Thy way is very dark and drear, I know, but do not let thy strength and courage fail. For certain as the raven winged night is followed by the bright and blushing morn, thy coming morrow will be clear and bright. 'Tis darkest when the night is furthest worn. Look up and out beyond surrounding clouds, and do not in thine own gross darkness grope. Rise up, and casting off thy hindering shrouds, cling thou to this, an ever-inspiring hope. Though thick the battle, though fierce the fight, there is power making for the right. You see how the last two verses, are kind of answer the first the four couplets, not couplets, the 3-4 verses. I can't say the right word for it. Stanzas. Yeah, 4, 4, 4, and then bam, 2. Think about what I said about his life. You see, is this a positive or negative view of what do you think this is? How do you see this?
Yeah, I think it's positive.
Yeah. I mean, the struggle's real, the darkness is real, but what? Rise up.
Yeah.
Rise up.
Hopeful.
Hopeful, very hopeful, isn't it? Cast off the hindering shrouds. Rise up. Cling down to this and ever inspiring hope. And so that just reflects to me his life. Like lift every voice and sing, recognizes. We sing that. We ought to sing it every 4th of July. I don't know if they do here or not, but they will this year. It's the Black National Anthem, and it's a wonderful counterpoint to some of the other hymns that we typically sing that have a patriotic nature to them. Anyway, but I love that. My heart be brave and do not falter. Think about the struggles this guy experienced, but yet he was fortunate to grow up in basically a kind of a middle class Black family, and they did not know slavery. Here's the prayer at sunrise. Ready? Now thou art risen and thy day begun. Who's the thou? The sun. How shrink the shrouding mist before thy face. You see how the sun scatters the mist. As up thou springest to thy diurnal race, how darkness chases darkness to the west, as shades of light on light rise radiant from thy crest. For thee, great source of strength, emblem of might, in hours of darkest gloom there is no night. Thou shinest on, though clouds hide thee from sight, and though each break thou sendest down thy light, and through, each break thou sendest down thy light. O greater master of this thy great sun, O greater maker of this thy great sun, give me the strength this one day's race to run. Fill me with light, fill me with sunlight strength, fill me with joy to rob the day its length, light from within, light that will outward shine, strength to make strong some weaker heart than mine, joy to make glad each soul that feels its touch. Great Father of the Sun, I ask this month. Thoughts? Any of you heard this before?
No.
Oh, all right, what's cooking here? What is he seeing first?
It's using nature to experience God's power.
Right, and he sees the sun. The sun is emblem, but there's something behind the sun. The sun is the symbol of God, breaking the mist, shedding light, scattering the darkness, and then he makes it, oh, greater maker of this thy sun. I wonder if all the play of sun and sun, I'm not sure. Of Jesus and the light, maybe.
Well, that very first line of thou, it could refer either one to God or to the Son.
Exactly.
And the one line that's not rhyming, and it kind of stays out.
It face, race, west. Interesting. You notice that, Barbara? Yeah, that's great. Look at that. Begun. Yeah, there's no rhyme to that. Much. Let's see. Touch, much. Shine, mine. Look at that. It's AA. BB, CC, night, sight, CCC, sun, begun, there it is. Oh, look at that. It's back. See that second part. Now, this is more like an Italian sonnet here because it's 8 and 6, it looks like to me. And the transition is from the physical sun, which is emblematic of God. It's actually God. But then it's where he says, oh, greater maker of this thy great sun. That's the sextet at the end. And notice it rhymes sun and begun. See that? You gotta be smart to do that.
Yeah.
It does, you don't notice these things, but that's also the transition in thought, you see, between the 8 and the 6. Wow. Great Father of the Son, I ask, and it brings it back together. Great Father of the Son, I ask this much. Yeah, again, it's a sonnet about struggle, isn't it? And how God dispels a lot, even when you cannot see God. There's a line in there, in hours of darkness, gloom, there is no night. Thou shinest, although clouds hide thee from sight. Do you see that? The struggles, the problems, the darkness, the despair hides, but it's still there. Still there, still there.
It's
This
hopeful.
has to be like a morning prayer, that, give me the strength, this one day's race to run. Fill me with light, help me get through this day, it's just a prayer at the beginning of the day.
And look at the name of it, Chuck. Prayer at
Yes,
sunrise. I mean, seriously, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Claire.
Well, it also in the last part, he is asking for himself to be an instrument, or himself to have the strength, the joy, the whatever.
Yeah, and for if some weaker heart than mine to help others, right? So much about his life. Yeah, so I would encourage you, we're just dipping our toe in this today, but so we're doing a variety of them versus just one person because I wanted you to see the breadth and depth. Let's go on to how let's see. We did Howard Thurman. Let me just talk about hold on. We heard that when the Song of Angels is still, which is beautiful, and it is a great benediction for Christmas Eve. But let me just tell you, Howard Thurman, he was born in Daytona Beach. His father died when he was 7. His grandmother was a former slave. So see the contrast there. And so profoundly religious woman. He was a valedictorian at Morehouse College. He was a valedictorian at Rochester Theological School, which is now Colgate Rochester School. He served as a pastor in Ohio, then he was a professor at Morehouse and Spelman in philosophy and religion. Quite accomplished gentleman. Dean of the Rankin Chapel at Howard University from 32 to 44. Dean of Marsh Chapel at Boston University, 53 to 65. And then he and Alfred Fisk started the first intentionally racially mixed congregation in San Francisco of a significant size. So he served also as the director of the Howard Thurman Educational Trust, authored 20 books. Wow, I can barely get a sermon out. 20 books. The most famous is Jesus and the Disinherited. That might resonate with some of you. That's a familiar title. And that was published in 1949. Well, okay, that is Howard Thurman. So you've got James Weldon Johnson and now Howard Thurman. Okay, let's look at Mother Howard Thurman. Well, we've already heard the song. We don't need to talk about that. But just realize the significance and significant contributions of these folks and how that when the song of the angels is still, the work of Christmas begins. This is putting faith into action. We believe all these beautiful things, but how are we living? And it's part of what's going on in the sermon this morning too. Very similar. All right. Yeah.
Someone wants to look him up. His name is actually spelled Thurman.
Oh, did I spell it wrong on here?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. I got it written right here, but wrong there. Thank you. No, I'm glad to know. I don't spell well. I had a paper in seminary for John Bright, this big old paper. I said, "This is an excellent paper. Too bad it's spoiled by such horrible spelling." We didn't have spelling check back in those dark days. Thank you, though, for pointing that out. I'm glad. Okay, so we're going to look at Langston Hughes. Now, he is really fascinating. Langston Hughes, poet, social activist, novelist, playwright, columnist, born in Joplin, Missouri, moved to New York City as a young man. He was a leader, became a leader in the Harlem Renaissance, huge figure in the Harlem Renaissance. He was an innovator. He wrote what's called jazz poetry, whatever that is. He wanted to portray not just the strengths and the accomplishments of the Black experience in America, but also the hardships. And he talked about working class Black people. He wanted to express the Black experience of fear and shame. We know we're beautiful. We know we're ugly too. Now, folks didn't like that. They wanted justice. He said, the Black intellectuals criticized his work for portraying what they called an unattractive view of Black life. But he saw Black intellectuals, he said, wanted to put their best foot forward, but only their best foot. He didn't like that. James Baldwin criticized him. And he says, this is what I write about. People up today and down tomorrow, working this week and fired the next, beaten and baffled, but determined not to be wholly beaten, buying furniture on the installment plan, filling the house in rooms to help pay for rent, hoping to get a new suit for Easter and pawning their suit before the 4th of July. You see that? Up and down, up and down. He was the first Black American to actually earn a living by his writings and lectures. And his poetry expressed the spiritual and physical strength of Black Americans. He worked as a waiter, a cook, a doorman in Paris. He traveled abroad, Mexico, West Africa, the Azores, Europe. He believed in humanity and thought there would one day be a world where all people could live and work together with understanding and sanity. And Langston Hughes, he's from a literary point of view, he and Maya Angelou are probably the most well-known of these. So here's mother to son. And see what some of the Black intellectuals did not like, he writes it in dialect. They didn't want that. Okay. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it and splitters and boards torn up and places with no carpet on the floor there. But all the time I spent climbing on and reaching landings and turning corners and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So, boy, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps 'cause you finds it's kind of hard. Don't you fall now, for I's still going hunting. I's still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair. What do you think?
Wow.
Mama told you what to do. Get on it.
Yeah.
I fought the fight, now your turn. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Do you know
Thoughts?
when when this was written, when in his life?
No, I really don't. Maybe the 40s or something. I'm just guessing. I'm not sure. This one breaks my heart. I too. Ready? I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody will dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am American. What do you think?
Beautiful.
Isn't that amazing? I too am beautiful. I too am America. And they'll be ashamed. They're Claire?
Well, it's, reading this, reminds me of something I've thought about a lot. Everybody in here remembers when segregation was the law of the land. And obviously we're all here. I hope that we can find a way to clearly describe all of this and the transition to our children and grandchildren. I remember my son saying, it was February and he, Black History Month, and he said, Mom, Mrs. Melton couldn't have been my teacher. She's after that. And did you know? And I said, yes, I did.
That's right.
But I didn't tell him and haven't told him what it was like for me when I went to college and sat in the classroom with a very smart African American lady for the first time in my life.
Yes.
So,
it's very humbling too. I mean, when we think about the privilege that many of us grew up in and the struggles that we know faced. Well, I can get into those stories, but we all have them. of a certain generation. You know, you're right, Claire. It's easy to forget the history. Yeah,
Correct. Yeah,
Barbara.
No, it's just like I'm.
well, I was gonna say that the second stanza there, tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. I think in one sense, that's true if you think about restaurants and the fact that whites and blacks can sit at adjoining tables. But in another sense, I still think there is a part of our society that says about black people, you're not
Okay.
welcome here.
Oh, yeah.
There's still that kind of prejudice and so it's not quite, we haven't quite reached the day,
Oh,
we
no.
haven't quite reached that tomorrow when we'll be all be at table together.
That's a great comment. Yeah, we still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
And tomorrow could be a long way off.
Yeah.
You know,
Look at the public schools, they're more segregated today than they were 15, 20 years ago.
yeah, I was shocked. when
Look
we-
at the message in our society nowadays. If you're brown or black, you're a danger.
Yeah.
Those when I had a very, very close friend in high school, Walter. And I asked him one time, why don't you participate more in class? You know, I like to raise my hand if you call them. And he said, Dan, when you answer the question and you get it wrong, people think it's funny. When I raise my hand and get it wrong, people think I'm stupid.
Right.
And I just retreat. I don't want to never do that.
When we moved back to Columbia, there was a guy who I was on a committee with him in town, and he was an optometrist, and he'd been one of the earlier integrated students, black students at my high school. He was a football star. I mean, he was wonderful. And I said, you were so admired, da da da. And he said, well, it wasn't always like that for me. He said that the football coach called him the N-word. And I said, I said, if my parents had known that, they would have marched straight over to school. I mean, they were no screaming liberals, but they recognized what was wrong. He said his experience of high school was so different from what my experience of his experience at high school was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was afraid and didn't say anything. He just took it. Barbara?
Which is emphasized by the two. We could speak this tomorrow with, we wouldn't even think about having to also present or emphasize the two. And
Then it's some.
the other.
These things blow me away.
There's also time too, I know, I think kind of related, but there was time I was on live one day coming to, I was one time and I saw this one BIPOC post like smoking on live well, and I think when against smoking, I was like, you can call me an ethnic quack, I didn't like that dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I stay cool quickly, but I just kept cool, but especially the guy who said I'll take off smoking on live well.
Yeah. That was a bad moment, wasn't
It
it?
was nice, I just kept it cool.
You just have to keep it cool. Yeah.
It's
Gotta keep it cool. Okay, let's talk about Robert Hayden. Now, Robert Hayden was very prolific, but some of his poems were so long. You ought to read the Ballad of Nat Turner, because Nat Turner, he wrote about historical figures and things, and Nat Turner had these visions. And so it's this kind of mystical sounding poem. It's a long poem, so I couldn't use it today. But anyway, if you think about Robert Hayden, born in 1913, died in 1980. He had a traumatic childhood, very poor in Detroit, raised by foster parents, extremely nearsighted. I think I've seen a picture with like Coca-Cola glasses, those big, thick glasses. Extremely nearsighted. So he took to books versus sports. He attended Wayne State University. He graduated with a degree in English from the University of Michigan. Think about this. First Black faculty member in their English department. And he was a consultant with the Library of Congress about Black poetry. He did extensive study of African American history from the roots in Africa to the U.S. He was a Baha'i, the Baha'i faith. He saw himself as an American poet, not so much as a Black poet, and yet his writings are often about the Black experience. Poems about Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X, Frederick Douglass, the Underground Railroad, the slave trade. He wanted to illuminate the Black experience in America. In 1966, he gained more national recognition. He taught at Fisk University and the University of Michigan. But the Ballad of Nat Turner is one you really ought to look at, and it was written in 1962. You almost need a dictionary to because it's like Ibu warriors. You know, there's a lot of African references and things like that in it. Let's see. Well, the Ballad of Nat Turner, but anyway, I think he died of prostate cancer. Yeah, there you go. Like it talks about the St. Elmo's fire, things like that, and the Ballad. You just really need to read it. It's very, very, very interesting. So here's Langston Hughes. No, I'm sorry, Robert Hayden. Now this is a break your heart poem. Now remember, he grew up very poor, raised in a foster home. Okay, ready? Those winter mornings. Sundays too, my father got up early and put his clothes in on the blue-black cold. Then with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather, made bank fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold, splintering breaking. When the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress, fearing the chronic angers of that house. Speaking indifferently to him who'd driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well. What did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lovely opposites? That's his poem. I'm going to read it again. Sundays too, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. Then with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather, made bank fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold splintering breaking. When the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress, fearing the chronic angers of that house. Speaking indifferently to him who'd driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well. What did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lonely opposites? What do you think?
Talk about the chronic anchors of that house.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, in my house, it was when the pipes started, warming up. We had hot water heat, and it would clink through the house. In fact,
Well, I hadn't thought about that.
we had this point.
We had those in the dormitory at Davidson, and when the dean would say, "We want to know who's throwing those water balloons," we'd say, "We want to know who's beating on the pipes in the middle of the night." But anyway, I know that was fair. Now, I think that you might be right. It might be the house itself, but kind of an animated house. I think it's that you notice that austere love, he answers indifferently. I think the house was full of anger. This unhappy father, who had to work and had cracked hands and had to deal with the cold. But look at the loving things he did. He banked the fires, he endured the cold, he polished the shoes.
And nobody ever thanked.
Nobody ever thanked him, and he answered him indifferently.
But stressed.
The father,
The low person on the racial totem pole, and so disrespect in the home that he was nurturing.
yeah. But I wonder if he was explosive too. I don't know. The angers. That was probably, yeah, we can say
I
that.
didn't see it as necessarily a black inspired totem. I see it as a human.
Isn't that a great point? And see, I just understood because it was a black person, right? I just figured it was a
It
black.
was a long time before I realized,
Right.
and I taught this point that I found out.
Oh, you've taught this point?
Oh, yeah, but I remember reading it, in college and had no idea he was black because I thought of my own father. He farmed. On Sunday morning, he would get up, crack of dawn, whenever that was. He'd have to go check on all the hogs and the pigs and the cows and all that stuff. And he polished our shoes every Sunday night.
Oh,
So it also implies they're going to church too at this point.
Yeah.
He never wore his watch during the week because it would have gotten ruined with all this stuff that he had to do. But he always wore it on Sunday, and he always made sure we were on church, to church all the time.
You guys are making me think about the universality of this poem because I was thinking just in terms of the black experience. Thank you. I really appreciate
Black man.
Uh-huh.
living then, probably now. I mean, how could you not hold chronic anger all the time?
Yeah, interesting. Y'all, these are powerful words.
There's a lot of unspoken anger,
Help.
places we don't know, we don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's out there.
Unspoken anger is, yeah, louder, Bill says, there's unspoken anger that's out there in places we don't even know. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well,
We assume it's okay.
yeah, man.
I can hear a whole family story in here about how the kid is not getting up because he's not gonna get his hands, and the father wants better for him.
Yeah.
But he's still really angry at dad, but he's thinking, it's gonna be different for my son. I'm assuming son. And, so I made a whole, in a very few words, a whole family drama.
And it's a very few words in it. But also, don't you think he's reflecting back later? What did I know of love's austere?
Right.
Like he's thinking back and regretting maybe.
Right.
Regretting how he was, his indifference to his father, his kind of holding back his fear, or whatever.
Sadness.
It is sadness in this poem, isn't it? And yeah, it's a powerful poem. Anyway, that's Robert Hayes, and I'm not so sure how typical that is. Barbara, you've taught him more. But have you read the Ballad of Nat Turner or any of this stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Am I describing it fairly accurately?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, it's a whole other world. Just go look at it when you get a chance, and I hope I spelled his name right this time. Hey, welcome.
We really appreciate learning about that.
Yeah, they liked it. Which one? The Ballad of Nat Turner?
Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Sir.
Glad you're here. Oh, you okay? All right, now we get on to perhaps the most interesting person of all. Well, I mean, I think that the biography, Maya Angelou. Okay. Maya Angelou was born in 1928, died in 2014. Poet, storyteller, activist, autobiographer. Her name was Marguerite Johnson, born in St. Louis. She was a singer, dancer, actress, composer, first female Black director, became most famous as a writer, essayist, playwright, and poet. She's a civil rights activist, worked for Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and she eventually became the Reynolds Professor of American Studies at Wake Forest University. I mean, quite an account. Did anybody ever have her for a class or anything? Did you, Leslie, or you?
I think I know. I remember her around campus.
Yeah, wow. In 2010, she was awarded the American Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama. She was awarded, check this one out, over 50 honorary degrees in her life. She wrote 7 autobiographical books, but her most famous is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, which describes her early years in St. Louis and Arkansas when she lived with her brother and her paternal grandmother. She was raped by her mother's boyfriend when she was 7 years old. And when the man who raped her was murdered by her uncles for what he did, she became silent, I think, for 7 years. But she read, she studied, and she read Langston Hughes, Paul Laurence Dunbar. She read Shakespeare, Dickens, Poe, and when she was 12 and a half. Now, so what is that? 5 years. That's 5 years. When she was 12 and a half, Mrs. Flowers, an educated woman, finally got her to speak again and taught her about the importance of the spoken word, the nature of poetry, and instilled in her a great love of poetry. She went to high school in San Francisco. When she graduated, she at 17, she had a child, or a guy. She began to work as a streetcar conductor, a shake dancer in nightclubs, a fry cook in hamburger joints, a dinner cook, a mechanic shop. She took the paint off cars with her hands. She married an ex-sailor, Tosh. They separated. She continued to study dance in New York. She was a member of the touring company of Porgy and Bess. In the late 50s, she sang on the West Coast and Hawaii in nightclubs before returning to New York to continue her stage career. She heard Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speak, inspired by his message. She decided to become a part of the struggle for civil rights. She moved to Cairo with her son in 1962, to Ghana in West Africa, returned to the United States, and was encouraged by James Baldwin and Robert Loomis, the editor of Random House, to write her autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Okay, that was the first of 7 books. And anyway, I don't want to go on too long, but she writes, she says in the first person, but when she writes in the first person, she always is writing we. She's speaking about the Black experience in America, we. I didn't see how she could even write. She said the assassination of Malcolm X, the Watts riot, the breakup of a love affair, then the assassination of Dr. King. How can I get all those loose ends together and write something uplifting? Quite a person. Amazing woman. And you can go on YouTube and you can hear her read her poems and things. And yeah.
I want to share that with one time a group of teachers in the writing project, we were going to England and Wales to study writing. So we went for 5 days to wait for us to prepare. And when Maya Angelou found out we were there, teachers, she gathered and came to us and talked and read poetry. And she respected teachers so much that she gathered,
Think about her life. I mean, for being a shake dancer, cabaret singer, to having 50 honorary degrees when you die, professor at Wake Forest. I mean, unbelievable. And she also, I must have lost a page here somewhere. Anyway, yeah, here she was, it was 1981, she became the Reynolds Professor of American Studies at Wake Forest. And really her early fame came a little bit in 1990s when Bill Clinton invited her to give the inaugural poem in 1993. And it's called On the Pulse of the Morning, a Rock, a River, a Tree. If you've never read that, when I taught this class before.
You can see it on YouTube.
You can? Watch it. But I had a class read it in parts. When we finished reading it, it was like this holy silence filled the room. It was amazing. Just because of the power of that vision of who we are, where we come from, and where we're going. A rock, a river, a tree, and all our ancestry, and who makes us what we are. Okay. She felt she was writing in a sense of the tradition of Frederick Douglass, using that first person singular, always meaning the we, the plural experience of Black Americans. Okay, she died in 2012. Now,
14.
Yeah, that other year. Close. Okay, here we go. It's still I rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Because I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like the moons and the like suns with certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still, I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, because I laugh like I got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thigh? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wonderfully clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream, the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. What you think? Wow. And think of that I is we. Come at the Black experience. We rise, we rise.
She starts out by saying, I will rise, I will rise, I will rise. And by the end,
she's saying it in the present tense.
Oh, great comment, yeah. And notice that there's really a shift between, her own kind of personal, what sounds like her personal experience, her own body and all of that. And then that out of the huts of history shame, the struggle of the people, you know, how it shifts there out of nights of terror and fear into a daybreak this one. You know, all of these poems share something in common. They share the struggle and the pain of the African American experience in America, but also the hope and the dream and the persistence of we're going somewhere else. We're going to be something better. And the society is going to be something better. Now, we got a few minutes. I think, we got, which is right. Is it 11:30, 10:30?
10:20, 10:39.
10:30. Oh, yeah, that one's right. My watch is wrong. You know, you buy a cheap watch, you don't oh, well, it was cheap. All right, I chose the Magnificat. And Mary said, my soul glorifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for he has been mindful of the humble estate of his servant. For now all generations will call me blessed, for the mighty one has done great things for me, and holy is his name. His mercy extends to those who fear him from generation to generation. He has performed mighty deeds with his arms. He has scattered those who are proud in the innermost thoughts. He has brought down rulers from their thrones. He has lifted up the humble. He has filled the hungry with good things, but has sent the rich away empty. He has helped his servant Israel, remembering to be merciful to Abraham and his descendants forever, just as he promised our ancestors. Look at that second line. He has been mindful of the humble state of his servant. I think of all of these poets as the servants. And God is using the servants, just like God used Mary, to bring about this transformation that he describes about what they call the great reversal, the bringing down the proud, the lifting up the lowly. Seems to me this just echoes with the poems that we've read so beautifully. And before we discuss that, let's go on to Timothy. As for me, I am already being poured out as a libation, and the time of my departure has come. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. From now on, there is reserved for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to me on that day. And not only to me, but to all those who have loved his appearing. And I'm not going to take the time to read the Isaiah passage. This is the suffering servant of the Lord, the Jesus who bears the wounded for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. And upon him is the punishment that made us whole. And when I think about the Black experience of America, how much it is like the suffering of Jesus. James Cone wrote the book, The Cross and the Lynching Tree. You know, Gerald, you and I were talking about it. He says, why was it that major white theologians in America never associated the cross with the lynching tree? And said, what I hear in this is that these great poets are the voice of God, you know, bearing upon themselves the suffering of our country and of our immorality, and vicariously suffering to make us all whole, just like Jesus. Now, I'm not saying they're all perfect like Jesus, but you catch my drift. There's a sense in which they have borne the suffering of the nation in order to bring about something better and more whole. Thoughts, comments? Yeah,
So when JFK became president,
real louding.
when JFK became president, he had Robert Frost read a poem. And so for a long time, nobody did that. And then Hillary Clinton, I don't know if she had met Maya Angelou or became friends with her, but she recommended Maya Angelou for when Bill Clinton became president. And so then I can't think of the lady's name. I don't think it's the first time Obama became president, but the second time he had another.
Amanda Gorman.
Amanda Gorman.
No, it was before Elizabeth. Can't think of her name. But But she did a poem, and then when Biden became president, Amanda Gorman.
Yeah.
But this tradition of highlighting and the importance of poetry, I just think it's just really cool. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting, in America, we name streets after military heroes. In France, they name them after literary folks. Not totally, but you know, I mean, they do both places. But you kind of notice that when you're in France, that they're, you know, Victor Hugo and, you know, a lot of other literary figures, but other thoughts. Yeah.
One thing I want to share that people might want to look at this afternoon sometime. Maya Angelou had a fabulous sense of humor, and she shared a poem she wrote with us. And it's called The Health Food Diner. It is so funny.
Can you read it?
And well, I can start it and you'll love it. No sprouted wheat or soya shoots and Brussels in a cake. Carrots raw and spinach raw today. I need a steak. So the health food diner.
That's cute. That's cute. But do you think the comparison I'm making about the suffering of the Black experience in America is in a sense redemptive for all of us, that bearing the sins of the people and bringing about wholeness or the possibility of redemption? It just struck me reading, particularly this time and preparing for this and reading these poems, that just hit me like a ton of bricks, that the suffering servant of the Lord, you know. But yeah, go ahead.
I'll comment on it. I'll say the struggle and the suffering for the African American people in America, that can relate to any race, because every race has been enslaved. And then also, you have to learn from not only your enslavement, but your faults. As far as being, what's the word? When you treated wrong,
Oppressed.
yeah, the person depressed. And if you don't learn from it, right? If you repeat the mistake, then guess what? It's going to fall back on you again. And so, speaking of progress, there's a lot to that, but not just now the 20th century, but 21st century. Every race who has experienced oppression and has been depressed, now everybody's in the same boat. So if you have not learned from your mistakes coming up from a young age, you yourself at your age, I'm 60, you know, and basically you hadn't learned from mistakes, that everything's going to fall back on you as a whole race, all colors, all races.
Thank you. Because yeah, I don't want to portray these poets perfect. They had mistakes and but hopefully in their lives they learned. And I think that's true of all of us. What are we learning from who we've been and what we shall be? You know? But
An assumption that there's an assumption that in history, progress is straightforward. And I think what we're seeing is we cycle back. And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's like in the idea of sanctification and the Presbyterian Reformed tradition, you know, it isn't just a straight up thing to the pearly gates. It's more like the roller coaster, but hopefully it gets higher. You know, we fall back, but we move forward too. Yeah. Y'all, thank you.
Thank you.